Hi and welcome to Craggle. We develop tools for the visual effects industry. This is a documentation video on smartWrite, our tool that adds several additional features to Nuke's Write, DeepWrite and Write GeoNodes. You can turn these on and off as you like, and all these features can be assigned to custom shortcuts which take effect immediately. No restart of Nuke required. But first let's install smartWrite and then let's explore all of its features. Like any other Craggle product, smartWrite can be installed with Craggle Connect directly inside Nuke. For more information about Connect, please visit the link below. So open Connect and drag smartWrite to the right to reveal more information. Just click on Buy and you'll be located to the webpage where you can purchase smartWrite. After purchasing, you'll receive a mail including an install code. Now simply click on Install, enter your received install code, or simply use your Craggle user account credentials, and smartWrite will be installed automatically on your machine. After the installation is finished, smartWrite can be accessed via Nuke's menu bar. Just click on Craggle, and in here you will now find a new submenu smartWrite. Now at the moment, this menu doesn't have a lot of commands, but we'll see in just a second how additional commands with custom shortcuts can be added to here on the fly. So let's now see how smartWrite works. Launch smartWrite by executing the open smartWrite command. This is the main window in which you can define all settings related to smartWrite. SmartWrite is divided into several sections. Near all sections contain a switch to toggle the functionality on and off on the fly. By turning it on, it gets immediately active in the smartWrite menu. Turning it off will disable the functionality. So you can customize this to your needs and add either all features or just what you need. Each section contains a help button that lets you automatically navigate to the documentation page of the currently selected section to get more information. Let's switch to the first section, General. This section covers general settings for smartWrite. In here you can configure the data root. This is the root directory that holds all configurations for you. Click the folder button to browse to a folder, or simply paste a folder path in here. Click this button to reveal the folder in your Explorer. When you're ready, click the blue Set button. It will now read configuration from this root directory. By default, the data directory is located on your user directory. But you can also point it to a location that is accessible for several machines, and they will then all share the same settings. This helps in having access to the same presets as we see later. By checking this checkbox, all output nodes will match the working file's version when you save your comp. So also when you version it up. That means the working file and all output node versions stay always in sync and you don't need to handle that yourself anymore. You can assign custom shortcuts to many features in smartWrite. Also for launching this window, so you can quickly edit the settings to your needs. Choose a combination of modifiers and a custom hotkey. The shortcut gets active immediately without any restart of Nuke. You can also see shortcuts updated live in the smartWrite menu. Here you can set a custom shortcut to launch the output settings window. The output settings window lets you trigger several custom actions for your output nodes. Let's for instance set it to Command or Control, depending on your operating system, and Y. The shortcut gets active on the fly and you can see it in the menu immediately. We'll later have a deeper look at this feature. Let's have a look at 4 basic features that should be built into Nuke by default, but they aren't. These features will be added to Nuke's Write, DeepWrite and Write GeoNodes. So we'll have Read from Write, Copy File Path, Reveal in Explorer, and Render Current Frame Range. Click the Read from Write section. Here we can create a Read from a Write node. Let's assign a custom shortcut, and we're ready to go. And as mentioned, all functionality works for other output nodes as well, like deepWrite to create a deep read, and WriteGeo to create a readGeo node. Once enabled a feature, there are several ways to trigger it. You can trigger it from the menu bar, or via the assigned custom shortcut, which gets enabled immediately. Or many features can also be triggered via the output settings window. Here you set the shortcut for this window, in our case, Command or Control and Y. Let's select our write node and trigger that shortcut. And in here we can create a read from write using this button. Here you also see the assigned custom shortcut. In the copy file path section, we can set a custom shortcut to copy an output node's file path directly into our clipboard without the need to open the node's properties bin. Again, this is also available via the menu bar, the custom assigned shortcut, and via the settings output window. In the Reveal in Explorer section, we can assign a custom shortcut to reveal the output node's file path in our Explorer. Again, also accessible via the menu bar, custom shortcut, and as well via the settings output window. And in the Render Current Frame Range section, we can assign a shortcut to quickly trigger a render of the frame range we have currently set up in our viewer, without any disturbing dialog. In the next section, Backup on Render, we can enable to create a backup of all upstream nodes whenever we render. The backup gets created next to our render. This enables now also a new handy feature for you. You can explode a rendering back into its nodes. Let's see that in action. Let's first set a custom shortcut to Ctrl and E to explode the rendering. Let's render using the previously enabled Render Custom Frame Range option, so Ctrl Shift and R, and reveal the render in our Explorer, Alt and R. Now we can create a read from write, remove all the nodes, so we have a clean script, and if we're ever in the situation to get all nodes back, press Ctrl and E, and all nodes are back. If you assign custom shortcuts, this gets all done with minimal effort. Render frame range, Ctrl Shift and R. Create a read from write, Shift R. Then delete the nodes. And if you want to get the node connection back, simply explode your read node, Ctrl and E. Again, this is also available for deep reads. And readGeo nodes. In the Render History section, you can create a custom shortcut to launch the render history. The render history lets you see all your previous renderings. Now this list remains when closing Nuke, of course. Right-click a thumbnail from the list. Here you find commands to insert the rendering into your node graph, which you can, by the way, also do by simply dragging it into your node graph. Reveal the rendering in your Explorer. Reveal the original Nuke script that created this rendering, as well as remove the rendering from the history, which will only remove it from this list, but keep it on disk. Finally, we have the naming and the presets section. Let's have a look at the presets section first. This section lets you set up presets for your write, deepWrite, and WriteGeo nodes. For each preset, you can set up knob defaults. As an example, let's create a preset for final comps. Click the New Preset button, enter a name, and enter comp. Click the arrow to expand the preset. By default, there are already some things set. The naming template, Now we'll come back to this in just a second. The file type, the color space, and the channels. As this is a comp, let's set these up the way we want to have it as default. So file type should be EXR. Let's use ACES-CG as color space, and let's render RGBA. Let's also create another preset for proxy JPEG files. So click the new Write preset button again. Enter proxy JPEG. And in this case, let's use JPEG as file type. Output sRGB as color space. And output just RGB in the channels. Navigate to your node graph and create a new write node. Now you can switch between different presets. Select your write node and open the output settings window. If you recall, we assigned the shortcut Command or Control and Y, but you can set it to anything else you like. In here you can now choose your previously created preset. Let's select Comp. The file type, color space, and channels get set up accordingly. Launch the output settings window again and switch to proxy JPEG. And the configured knobs, so the channels, color space, and file type, get all switched to our proxy JPEG configuration. Now you can set any additional knob defaults in your presets. Just make sure to use the exact knob name that Nuke uses. You'll get the knob name by hovering over it. As an example, let's reduce the JPEG's quality. Hover over the quality knob. The internal knob name is displayed in bold here. So _JPEG_quality. So switch back to the preset section. Expand our proxy JPEG preset. Click the plus button to add a new knob default. And on the left we enter the knob name, so _JPEG_quality. And let's reduce it to, let's say, 0.55. Create a new write node and apply the proxy JPEG preset. And this quality will now be set up for you, so you don't need to think about it anymore. But of course you can also tweak it afterwards if you like. You can also reload existing write nodes by clicking the reload button, so that this write node has its quality set up to 0.55 as well. You can also set up a favorite for your write, deep write, and write geo nodes. Let's for example use the comp presets whenever we create a new write node. For that, navigate back to the preset section, and here you can mark a preset as favorite. Now when creating a write node, it will automatically be set up to comp. You can however always change to a different preset and also always tweak the knobs if needed. The presets can also assemble the output path automatically for you, so you don't need to set it up manually anymore. Now watch out, this feature is a bit more advanced and it requires some knowledge about regular expressions. If you've never worked with regular expressions, the following could potentially look a bit intimidating to you. But bear with us, once you get it, it's not very complicated. So let's see how automatic path assembly works. For that, let's switch to the naming section. The idea is simple. Here you can describe the naming structure of your working file. You can then use this structure to extract naming values from your working file, and these naming values can then be used to create your output paths. This all happens with the magic of regular expressions. Again, if you're new to regular expressions, this could look intimidating to you. But actually, if you've used it for a short time, you realize quickly that regular expressions are actually really straightforward to use. We highly recommend to follow along our written documentation as well, as this goes way more into depth about the naming section and how to set up to your needs. To keep this documentation video short, we won't go into details about regular expressions for now. At the top, you can create several naming templates. Click the plus button to create a new one. Click the Reveal button to reveal the naming pattern directory in your Explorer. Here you can set up regular expressions that describes your current working file. Click this button to access the external website regex101.com. We highly recommend this website for editing your regular expressions, as this lets you create regular expression patterns with live feedback in an easy way. When you're fine with your regular expression pattern, you can paste it into here. All empty lines and lines that start with a hash character get ignored. So you can use it to add comments, for example. This line here describes the naming of your current working file. If this naming structure stays consistent, which we highly recommend, you just need to set it up once, and in here you can then reuse it as often as you need it. Let us know if you need some help with your regular expressions. We're definitely here to help you. Applying this pattern onto the current working file, we extract the naming values that you see here. These naming values can now be used inside the naming preset to build an output path. Here you can create as many presets as you like. For instance, you might have a different output path for your final comp renderings than your pre-renderings. Click the plus button to create a new naming preset. Click the Reveal button to reveal the presets directory in your Explorer. In here you describe the output path. You can refer to hard-coded values as well as the extracted naming values to describe your output path. At the bottom you see a live preview of what your output path will look like. As an example, here we have an output naming template for comp outputs, which renders into a comp folder. And in here we have an output template for all pre-comps, which renders into a pre-renders folder. Now you don't need to have all naming values available here. You can see that here, the tasks is unknown at this stage. If any naming value is missing, you'll be asked about it when you apply a preset, which we'll see in just a second. So this is how you configure your output paths. These can now be applied to your preset section. For example, let's assign the comp naming template to our comp preset. When creating a new write node, the output path will be assembled automatically for us, which saves a lot of time and avoids any misspelling. As mentioned before, in case a particular naming key is described in our naming pattern but is not available, you'll be asked for it when creating an output node. Let's see that in action. Here we define the output preset patterns for pre-comps. In here we use the naming value task. If you look closely, the naming value is not defined in here. Note that there is a task type and task name, but not task. So in creating a write node, and use for example this precomp DWAA preset, which uses the precomp naming template, then we'll be asked for all missing naming values. In this example, it's just the task that we need to enter. Let's say this, for example, a denoise plate task. So enter denoise plate and hit OK. The write node will be set up automatically, and also the output path will be assembled as configured. For example, here we use the task in the folder name and in the file name. If we had some other task, let's say met car, then this output path will be set up accordingly. As mentioned earlier, if you're not familiar with regular expressions, then this might probably look a little bit complicated for you. But as soon as you get familiar with it, setting up new presets is actually pretty straightforward and takes just a few minutes, and you can then use this time saver day in, day out. And if you need some help with it, just let us know, we're happy to help you. So this will speed up your work a lot, as you don't need to set up your output nodes manually anymore. And if you simply don't need this feature, just turn it off, and output paths won't be assembled for you. please have a look at our written documentation for further information. And also, please feel free to contact us if you need some help with that. We can help you with your regular expressions and output node setups. Now, as mentioned in the beginning, you can share output nodes presets within your team so that everybody in your team will have access to the same output node presets. All you have to do is point to the same data directory. So this was a documentation video on smartWrite, our tool that adds several additional features to loops write, deep write, and write geo nodes.